What's up, YouTube? Brian here, back again with another high-end rod review. I got a lot of things to say today, but first off, I want to say thank you to everybody who's been smashing like and subscribe on the videos. I finally hit 1,000 subscribers, which was a big deal for me in a short amount of time. So all you rod snobs out there who are smash and subscribe on my videos, I want to personally say thank you. And if you have not hit subscribe yet, what are you doing? Hit subscribe. I got a lot of cool videos coming out this summer. I got a lot of rods lined up in the review catalog and in the queue. So we're going to be doing a lot of cool reviews. Today's a special video because I had to bump this rod up on my review schedule because of how simply incredible this rod is. Let's start off by saying that I have a lot of history with Gloomis spinning rods, especially the 852S models. I've owned both the NRX 852S and the GLX 852S in the past, and they both are gone. Now, I love those rods simply for how incredibly sensitive they are. So the 852S, if you want a simple, shaky head, hitting the bottom, contact rod, it is a fantastic rod. My number one gripe with the 852S in both the GLX and the NRX models is that they were never great casters. I am a spinning rod snob, and I've always wanted a rod that could make really long casts for fishing deep, clear lakes, specifically like smallmouth lakes. And the 852S in the NRX and the GLX were both not great casters because they were extra fast rods with very little tip. They're very stiff, but I always felt like I couldn't get the bait out as far as I wanted. So that's why those rods, while I both love them as far as sensitivity and power, I never really grew to love them as a all-around deep water fishing rod. So in comes the NRX 872S. Now, I don't know why I haven't bought this rod in the past. I don't know why it took so long for me to finally step up and pick up this rod and test it. Because this rod is everything I've been looking for in a deep water fishing spinning rod. Now, this rod is completely different than the 852S. They don't share many characteristics. What I love about this rod, I'm going to talk about a couple of the different things about this rod that I love. And I'm going to compare it to the Conquest 842S. Now, I know this is a 7-footer, but they're both kind of like the super high-end rods from Shimano and Gloomis, so we're going to compare them a little bit, so buckle up. I'm sorry if this video is going to run a little long, but the 852S, I picked this up right when ice was coming out, and there's a reason I picked this up early in the season is because of COVID. A lot of rod sellers, a lot of shops, they're running low on specific models of rods that are kind of popular or hard to get, and Gloomis's factory is shut down, and apparently restocks aren't going to be happening until late August. So I want to pick up this rod now. So if I want to get it, I plan on picking this rod up this year, but I bumped it up because I didn't want to try and search for this rod in the middle of summer and nobody had it. So I grabbed it while a shop I know had it, gave me a great deal on it. Shout out to Marine General up in Duluth, gave me a great discount. As everybody gets a great discount on NRXs, don't ever pay full price. Don't go on Taco Warehouse and buy one of these. You're an idiot. Always call up a shop that sells these things, try and get 20 to 30% off and have them ship it to you. Best way to buy an NRX. Or find a local shop that's got them you can walk in. Anyway, moving forward. Why I love this rod so much. For some reason, they gave this rod an incredibly soft tip. So unlike the 852S, unlike the 852S, the 872S has 3 extra inches. So this thing is a 7.3 medium, extra fast. So medium power, extra fast action. Now, just because this rod says extra fast, don't believe it. I don't know why they call this rod extra fast, because this is one of the softest tips I have in all of my spinning rods. The Legend X has a really soft tip as well, the 7-foot spinning rod. This is very similar. But look at this thing. This tip is insanely soft. It goes down to about the 7th guide before the backbone, before that extra fast medium power backbone really kicks in. You got all of this soft tip. Why is that so great? Because you can finally make long bomb casts. So I'm a big fisherman of I'm a big thrower of paddle tail swim baits. So a typical setup for me is like this: a Gamakatsu or Kitech ball head jig with a 3-inch spark shed, or I also like the Outcast GoldenEye Josh Douglas head. So any of the 1/4 ounce or lighter, sometimes I throw 3/8 swim head jigs or ball head jigs with a small paddle tail. This is a Megabass Spark Shed 3-inch. I throw the Biospawn Exo Swims, and I throw Kitechs. So this is a common setup for me. I almost have this tied on all year for smallmouth, largemouth, and walleye fishing. So I'm always throwing one of these on my boat. I've wanted to make extremely long casts with these for a long time, and this rod is finally able to give me those long bomb casts I've always thought about in my head. So because of that soft tip, you can really load up on a cast and just fling a spin bait. Line is key. You want a low friction line as well, and the line that I've been using so far this spring, and I'm really happy with it, is the J-Braid Grand. Now, I also ran Super Slick V2 all of last year, and while it is a great line and it's very limp, Super Slick V2, in my opinion, does not cast as far as you think it should for an 8-carrier braid. The J-Braid Grand, this thing is a little noisier and a little less smooth going through the guides on a rod, but man, this thing makes some sick casts. Plus, you can get it in this cool blue color that almost perfectly matches the NRX blue tape. So if you're into aesthetics, pick up that J-Braid Grand 8 in the blue. I'm running 10 pound. So I'm kind of going to be all over the place on this review, but let me just tell you, this rod is incredible. It's a 10 out of 10. If I can find more of these later on this year, I might actually pick up a second one because of how much I love this thing. Balance. So the balance on this rod is typical NRX tip heavy balance. The rod is so stupid light that I don't really care that it's a little tip heavy like most NRXs, but this is a Daiwa Tatula 3000 shallow spool, and it balances right about at the tape. So right about where the hook keeper is on this rod, it balances. You could put a slightly heavier rod to get that balance point really down on the lock nut. But personally, I like I say in all my videos, I like to choke up a little bit. So my fingertips are right about at the balance point. Honestly, I don't really care about the balance on this rod because it's so awesome. The cork on NRXs is pretty good. Like I've said in previous videos, it's like a B+B. There is a lot of filler. However, if you U40 cork seal your rods and you keep them clean, and then reseal them every year, that filler should not fall out. I have another NRX rod that's a little older that I can tell the guy didn't cork seal, and some of the filler did fall out. But anyway, B-grade cork. This rod, of course, has the recoil guides. I've done a whole tangent on recoil guides in the past on my other NRX view. I'm going to link that up top if you guys want to go and read or see my other review where I kind of go deep on my my hate, and I don't really love recoil guides. But I'll tell you one thing. This rod is incredibly sensitive. I was fishing this exact setup for the last several weeks, smallmouth fishing on rocky lakes. I could feel everything. It is so sensitive. I give this rod a 10 out of 10 on casting. I give it a 10 out of 10 on sensitivity. It whoops sensitivity compared to the Conquest. So I have this Conquest 7-footer. This thing is nothing in comparison as far as sensitivity to this rod, and this rod is 115 bucks cheaper. So the MSRP on these is Gloomis and Shimano did a price hike on the Conquest NRX this year. This rod's coming in at $580 now. This rod is $690. This is a $700 rod now, and I would take this NRX 872S every single day of the week over the 7-foot 842S Shimano Conquest. There's a couple reasons. Now, the recoil guides mean that you have to be good on your knot game. You need to be able to tie a really tight small knot, use a FG or Royal Polaris or a uni knot. You need to make your knots extremely tight and small. Then the guides are bearable. One time, so far fishing this rod, I've actually casted it and some kind of wind knot or something happened around one of the recoil guides, and the line, when I tried to like undo the line around the recoil guide, the line actually got wrapped and stuck inside the recoil guide. So if you guys don't know what recoil guides are, it's just a bare metal wire circle that loops around itself. And the first time ever, I've actually had line get sucked into the middle of the recoil guide, and that was a pain in the butt to sit in a windy day on my boat trying to get this stupid line out of the recoil guide. I hate recoil guides. I wish Gloomis would dump the stupid things and go full Torzite, but whatever. Anyway, I'm not going to go on a recoil tangent. It is what it is. Everyone who owns and uses NRX understands what I'm talking about. Anyway, so I know I'm over the place on this review. I apologize, but I really want to hit a couple things. One, this soft tip really makes fighting fish fun. When you do hook a fish deep, you can lean into them. So I'll be fishing that rocky smallmouth lake. I'll be running that paddle tail. I'll hit a rock. I'll tick it. Boom, fish grabs it. I just lean back and start reeling, let the reel do the work. And man, when this tip loads up on a fish, it is so fun. I've already caught like a bunch of 3-pound smallmouth on this rod in Wisconsin. And when it loads up and you're fighting a fish, that fish is staying panned. He ain't going anywhere, especially if you're using a sharp hook like this Gamakatsu ball head jig or a GoldenEye swimmer head. It's so much fun to fight a fish on this. I even use this rod for hair jig fishing. So I was throwing 1/8 ounce hair jigs on this rod, and it could definitely do it. I wasn't making as long casts as I could if I was using like a medium light or a lighter rod. But if you're into hair jigs, this can throw hair jigs. This rod could throw jerk baits. This rod can do Ned rigs. I've dragged Ned rigs with this. Anytime you're fishing in like 10 foot or more deep, and you want a rod that can make nice long casts in a really clear lake, and you want to stay away from the fish, you should have one of these 872s. This thing is incredible. I don't know if I'd use this rod shallow fishing because of the extra length, the 7.3. I don't think this would be a stellar dock skipping rod. You definitely could do it. I like to have a 7-foot for that. I know it's only 3 extra inches. If you are a confident dock fisherman and you think that you can do a 7.3 for dock fishing, go for it. I would say because of the extra fast, really heavy backbone of this rod, I probably wouldn't use it for drop shotting. You could use this rod for drop shotting, especially like say deeper with a slightly heavier weight. I haven't tested that yet, but I definitely think that this thing for like maybe a 1/4 ounce weight, fishing like maybe 20 foot or more for drop shotting, you could do it with this rod. It's definitely going to be sensitive enough. So amazing tip, long castability, incredible sensitivity, pretty okay weight balance. It's not the best, but it's also not terrible. It's not St. Croix bad. I don't have too much more to say about this rod. One thing I want to show you is I think one of the reasons this rod is so great at casting is because the first couple guides on this rod are titanium Fuji guides. I think they're SICs still. People have told me that Gloomis switched to Torzite on the new NRXs, which this is the newer version. I don't believe it. I still think it's SIC. According to their website, it's SIC. So why would they run Torzite and not update the website? I don't understand. But in my opinion, all this is still SIC. Look at the guide sizes. So I hope I can get this on camera, but the size of the first guide on this rod is gigantic compared to the guide size on the Torzite guide train on the Conquest. So let me show you this real quick. Hopefully I can get this on camera, but the first couple guides are so much bigger on the NRX. So I don't know if you guys can see this, but the guide, this is the NRX. The guide on the NRX is way bigger than the guide on the Conquest. I think having these bigger, the first two guides are considerably wider on the NRX than the Conquest. I think that's why this thing makes such a good cast. The line can really get out of the spool easily. You got the softer tip. I like that these guides, the first couple guides on the train, are so much bigger than on the Conquest. This Conquest, I picked this rod up thinking that this rod was going to be like a really great caster because it's the Conquest. It's got the Torzite guides. The Spiral X wrapping on the blank is supposed to keep the blank more rigid and straight, which means less twisting of the guides, which means the line can come off faster. I'm going to do a full review on this rod later on where I'm going to talk in depth about this, but believe it or not, this rod is not that great of a caster as far as distance goes. This NRX smokes it. I can get way longer casts, and I've actually hooked up both rods with 1/4 ounce swim bait heads and the same swim baits, and I've thrown them both, and the NRX smokes this thing. So I will tell you, if you're going to go high end on a Gloomis spinning rod, go with the NRX, save your money over the Conquest. The Conquest is slightly lighter. It's got the Torzite, it's got the fancy X wrapping, which I don't really think matters. I don't think it does anything spectacular. It's great on paper, it's great on marketing materials, and it looks really cool. But the unfinished regular blank of the NRX is incredibly sensitive. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't see why you should go up to a Conquest. Conquest guys, I've talked to Conquest guys who switched all their NRXs over to these Conquest rods and are like, oh, it's so much better. I call 100% and utter bullshit on the spinning rods. Now, I'm not talking casting. Casting Conquest rods are completely different than NRX casting rods. I'm just going spinning to spinning. The NRX is better. The Conquest is not worth $700, but that's another review for another day. I'm sorry to go on a little bit of tangent, but they're in the same family, same company, so I think it warrants some discussion. So if you're looking for a rod that can really hit that deep water finesse bite, the 872S is a rod you got to grab. If you see one, pounce on it this summer because they're going to be hard to get. Most shops didn't carry that many of this model to begin with, and once they're gone, they're not getting restocked. I know Tackle Warehouse has them in stock right now if you want to pay the full $580, which are crazy. I know you can get these rods for around $400 or even sometimes under $400 if you got a shop that really likes you. But like I said in my previous NRX videos, the resale value on these things are amazing. If you can get a new one for like under $420, you can keep this rod in fantastic condition and then turn around and sell it for like $350 to $390 on the aftermarket use. So you're out almost no money. These things hold their value incredibly well. They're never a bad buy. You're going to smile ear to ear when you're using them. But yes, this 872S NRX is a complete and utter gem. I'm not bullshitting you. This is one of the best spinning rods I've ever owned, and I've used it many, many times so far this spring. I was going to wait to do a review on this rod later in the summer when I got more time on it, but I'm already so blown away by this rod. It is going to be in my hand and on my deck all summer. I'm smitten with this rod. I actually might sell a couple of things later down the line to buy another one of these because I want two of them rigged up because I don't see why, if you're an offshore finesse fisherman, you wouldn't want more than one of these. Good job, Gloomis. I feel like an idiot that I didn't pick up this rod sooner, and this guy is not going anywhere. I don't know if I'm going to do a bend test on this rod. I think I probably won't because I don't really have another 7'3" spinning rod to compare it to. The Brigand Megabass is way more powerful than this rod. Let's see, this rod is rated to 3/8. I'd say this rod's sweet spot is 1/4 ounce swim baits or even slightly heavier Ned heads or deep shaky heads. I'm going to throw dark sleepers on this summer, even though I already have another rod that does dark sleepers, but I'm going to play around with this thing a lot. But if you're a paddle tail swim bait guy and you like to fish deep, this rod is amazing. You smallmouth guys got to jump on this rod. This is an incredible rod. I can't give it more of a glowing review. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below in the video. As usual, I have a link to Omnia Fishing, who is a local shop. I have a 15% off code. Anyone can use it. They do carry NRX rods. I don't think they have this model. Almost nobody does right now. But happy hunting if you're looking for this rod. Until next time, we will see you later. #RodSnobArmy. Whatever. See you guys later. Take it easy.